sure this is a controversial statement to say, especially in this day and age, but anime is a medium with highly unique ways of telling stories.
Boo!
Hey, don't boo me, I was just being facetious, simmer down. Well, anyways, it's no different for Jujutsu Kaisen, a series which is basically Hogwarts for weebs. It's not realistic at all. Or is it? That's right, while Jujutsu Kaisen is set in a world of magic, curses, and daddy, and also mommy, the series' more subtle bits of storytelling often go unnoticed by many. What do I mean by this? Well, this brings us to Jujutsu Kaisen 0, the prequel film to Jujutsu Kaisen. This film is a great example of how Jujutsu Kaisen interweaves in its complex webs life stories, experiences, and bits of important life philosophies to help anyone watching learn something about themselves. Jujutsu Kaisen 0, in essence, is a story about a boy who goes to a school and fights curses. But, in reality, it's a giant allegory for how we should live our lives. So, let's break down some examples, review the film, and discuss. This is how Jujutsu Kaisen 0 teaches us to live. In this film, we follow our main character, Yuta Okatsu, who as a young child would promise to marry a girl named Rika Orimoto, who helped him through a very hard time in his life. But after a horrible accident that left Rika dead, Yuta is cursed by Rika Orimoto herself, always wanting to stay with and protect him from any sort of danger. So, being bullied at 16 years old, Rika Orimoto murders Yuta's bullies, and because of this, Yuta is found by Gojo Satoru and is brought to Jujutsu High. But the road Yuta is about to embark on would be an extremely difficult one, unlike any others he has faced yet. So just diving into the film itself, it's based around Yuta growing as a person and as a sorcerer in Jujutsu High. He is taken under the tutelage of Gojo and joins Panda, Toge, and Maki, becoming the fourth member of their group. I quite enjoyed Yuta's growth throughout the film, as it was simple yet highly effective because you can see each moment Yuta grew as a person. This is primarily through going on missions with Maki and Toge, who serves as examples for Yuta to grow from the lessons he learns. For example, Yuta's first lesson in life is from Maki, who initially is at best indifferent to Yuta, though her impact on him is the catalyst he needs to start on his path of growth. Maki doesn't like Yuta at first because he's coming to Jujutsu High without a goal, without a real purpose. He spends most of his life living as a victim of Rika Orimoto, taking a passive approach to living, just wanting to close himself off from others. This is due to him not being able to control Rika, as he's haunted by what he did to his bullies by killing them. He wants to be alone forever because he feels he is so damaged and so dangerous that he doesn't deserve to be in society. It's this way of living which has made Yuta conform to an unhealthy mindset that he is a victim and thus needs to lock himself up and throw away the key. And this pisses Maki off to some degree, though it is Maki, so that isn't really too hard, considering. Their first interaction, Maki tells Yuta that at Jujutsu High, you need a purpose. You need a goal, because otherwise you're bound to fail. It takes a lot of ambition and a lot of blood and sweat to be in the position that he's in. And in that sense, he's lucky, so he should count his blessings for being a special grade rank in that sense. At first, Yuta wimpishly agrees with Maki, as truthfully, everything she said was correct. It's just, in that moment, he used Maki's words to reaffirm his bad traits, reminding him once again just who he is. Watching this scene, I'm one of two minds because it's such a beautifully and subtly written scene between two people who aren't as dissimilar as you would initially think. My first thought is that I feel Maki is pretty vindicated in what she says. Her being harsh is also only natural and makes sense. Maki came to this school because she wants to get strong, out of spite and take down the Zenin clan from the inside. This is why she's so uptight and imposes a strict lifestyle. Her goal is one which keeps driving her seemingly forever. Her spiteful rage is a plentiful fuel in which she can draw from. So to have this kid come in, act the way he is, it's sorta disrespectful to what she's trying to achieve. To put it in much simpler terms, Yuta is annoying because he won't help himself in the most simplest of ways, and that pisses off Maki because she's self-motivated, absolutely. Though, here is the really interesting part I didn't quite catch at first. But before we get there, I'd like to remind you all to check out my last JJK video on Season 1, but as well, I will be on the King of Anime podcast channel to talk about JJK Zero and my thoughts along with the podcast co-hosts. Links in the description and pinned comment below. On the other hand, this was tough love by Maki and served as an important moment that Yuta would not forget, instilling some sort of latent wisdom into the young whippersnapper. This seed would sprout when Yuta and Maki go to a school to get rid of curses. This is a great moment in of itself because it plays upon the idea that school is such a powerful negative memory for so many people, including myself, that curses see it as some sort of breeding ground. This is the strength of JJK, is that it uses a lot of personal elements and kernels of truth to make their world seem more grounded than it, well, actually is. It's a brilliant and economic way of world building, which then brings us to one of Yuta's most important lessons. Yuta and Maki are eventually swallowed whole by a curse, and within its stomach, they find the kids they were looking for. But in the process, Maki is cursed. It's now up to Yuta to nut up because Maki isn't like others. She uses cursed weapons, but is pretty much just a normal person like you or me. Well, more or less. So, now Yuta is in a position where he has to face the issue he's been dealing with up until now. Himself. Maki, suffering from her curse, grabs Yuta by the collar and essentially demands that he figures out what he wants to be. What is his goal at Jujutsu High? Yuta says that all he wants is to hope that everyone doesn't get hurt anymore, that he doesn't want to be lonely, to have someone to need him. These are all things we feel as people. Just basic needs we want to fulfill. But what Yuta is saying really is that he wants happiness. As people, we don't want to hurt anybody, we don't want to be lonely, and we want someone to depend on us like how we depend on them. Yuta wants happiness at the end of the day, and to say it's okay to be alive. So, Maki tells him that these things will only come if he keeps exercising curses over and over and over. He will find what he's looking for then. But really, what is Maki trying to say here beyond that? Well, I think this requires further introspection because I feel there are so many people who could misunderstand Maki for being demanding. But the reality is that what Maki is doing here isn't demanding or using Yuta to her advantage. Rather, she's trying to tell Yuta that he can't achieve his goals of being needed unless he has an action which pushes him in that direction. Let me drop a little bit of a nugget here. Vision without action is a dream. Action without vision is a nightmare. If you know what that is from, put it in the comments below. Otherwise, Yuta cannot find freedom from his sorrow unless he puts in the work, because nothing in this world is achieved without putting in effort to get there. What you put in is what you will get, and Yuta at this moment levels up and unlocks an important piece within himself that will carry him to his ultimate goal time and time again. So, Yuta summons Rika Orimoto, killing the curses from the inside out and freeing them from the stomach of the curse. This very act, as Gojo states later in the hospital, is in of itself an admission to Yuta's growth as a person. From this moment on, Yuta would never be the same again. From here on out, Yuta begins to train with Maki, and so begins two really clever and subtle things happening simultaneously. One of these is that Yuta learns the value of training as a student in Jujutsu High. For one, training is a form of pain and gain. Through Yuta's constant training, he is subjecting his body to pain with the ultimate long-term goal of a better body and more skills. And when Yuta gets distracted by Gojo, Maki takes advantage of the situation to teach him a lesson. Through pain, he learns, and a part of that pain is failure in realizing how important the act of training is in of itself. Without diligence and mindfulness, taking it seriously, in other words, Yuta's training may as well be for naught, as without focus, there is no gain. This is why pain, in that sense, is important, because through pain, he is reminded of his goals and how important every moment is in achieving that. In other words, it's not about the end of the story for Yuta, it's a little bit more about the details which add up. As for the other bit of detail, romance! This film, quite honestly, has one of the best ships in JJK as a whole, which is Yuta and Maki. This is really the beginning of it, with the film making it a point to tell you that Maki has been so much happier with Yuta around as his mood has improved. This starts off as Maki enjoying sparring with a weapon user, something she was never really able to do. Then it's pushed even further when Panda asks Yuta, how to say this without getting demonetized, how big he likes women's chests? Can I say that? Besides that, it's just an ever so slight tone shift that lets the viewer know, hey, these two are sort of a thing, which honestly I like. We don't see much of that kind of stuff in JJK, so it's cool to finally see it in this capacity. But hey, at least Maki has a chance, you know? Eventually, Yuta now has to go with Toge to exercise a curse. This serves as Yuta finally getting to know Toge, as he's always been curious about him. I mean, the guy literally speaks in ingredients. Yuta learns that, once upon a time, Toge cursed people through his words he never meant to, as his words are able to curse others. So, he speaks in rice ball ingredients to counteract that. It's pretty neat, but also sort of sad that just speaking, he curses people and thus is never really able to speak. Can't imagine living like that, not being able to express yourself the way you want. So they fight off the pack of curses, to which Toge is now using a spray to help with his throat as he gets sore the more he uses his cursed speech. But when an unexpected high-grade curse appears, Yuta and Toge are backed into a corner, which Toge tries to go out alone to protect Yuta. This is another important yet detail-rich moment for Yuta. He realizes that Toge is the kind of person to protect others because he is a highly empathetic individual who tries to understand the other person he's dealing with. Using that, he is able to decide the best course of action to deal with that person, but as well the best course of action he can take to protect them. Yuta's important lesson here is that it's all about learning to accept his weaknesses, but not give up and find a better way together through friendship and teamwork. Isn't that fun? So Yuta takes one of the biggest steps of his life as he jumps out, distracting the curse with Toge to get back the mouth spray. This is how they were able to defeat the curse. They anchored the entire plan on working together, not Yuta becoming some ultra MC to bullshit a victory and eke out a win. Due to this valuable experience, he realizes what his place in this world is. To be in Jujutsu High with Maki and Toge. He wants to be useful to everyone because his perception of value before was being locked away, lonely. But now his value is how he applies himself and gives back to the world and the people he cares about the most. He is able to empathize and now understand a person much better, exactly like Toge does. In other words, Yuta learns how to work together to make something beautiful and in turn bring value to the world. All of this that has come before thus far was simply here just to build to what would be the climax of Yuta's character. Now we're at the point in the story where everything is going to start coming together in a really interesting way I think you'd never think about. So let's go ahead and let's dive into this. This is how Jujutsu Kaisen 0 teaches us to live. It's revealed that the person behind all of the curses so far is none other than Gojo's former friend, Geto Sugawara. His goal is to eliminate all non-sorcerers, and he will do so using his ability to essentially absorb and take on a multitude of curses, except he's missing one, Rika Orimoto. So Geto wants to kill Yuta and take Rika from him to achieve his goal. This would lead up to a final climactic battle, maybe one of Mappa's best produced pieces ever. But before we get there, the lead up to the battle is also massively important. Maki goes to talk with Yuta in the school, in which she gets frustrated that he's not asking about her name and the story behind her family, obviously wanting him to be more interested in her. Naturally, she reveals in a very strangely tender but equally tense moment, because it's Maki, to Yuta that she wants to take down the Zenin clan from the inside by coming to Jujutsu High and climbing the ranks to be the best curse wielder she can be, having the advantage of being able to see curses and all. Hearing this, Yuta naturally assumes they're going to do this together, as this is because Yuta learned from Toge the importance of teamwork and camaraderie. He's able to empathize and understand Maki better because of this, but Maki, strangely, isn't as happy as you'd think a girl would be. Well, Maki is just so stubborn and driven by her spite that she feels she doesn't need Yuta, or anyone, as a matter of fact, to achieve this. In her own words, there is no point if she doesn't do it herself, which goes directly against what Yuta has learned to do so far. In reality, Yuta wants to be strong and unyielding like Maki. Though I think it's something Maki realizes, as after she storms out of the classroom, she asks herself if she's the one who is the idiot, not Yuta. My man Yuta is already a lady killer, Yuta x Maki, every second of the day. Such a great ship. Though, this moment is just really important because as Geto starts to attack to get to Yuta, Gojo realizes he's trying to get Yuta alone and thus sends Panda and Toge to help protect Yuta and Maki. Though, upon seeing Panda, Toge, and Maki in this state, he gets them out of harm's way by using Rika Orimoto. For the second time this has happened, and for a very good reason. There, Yuta realizing the only way he can defeat Geto is to use Rika, the Queen of Curses, such a great line, to fight Geto head on. Before this happens, there is a great moment where Rika is clearly jealous of Maki for how close she is to Yuta, which we then see Yuta get angry at her and tells her to treat her as gently as a butterfly. My man Yuta, the lady killer. Join my Discord, this video's freaking long. So begins the fight between Yuta and Rika against Geto and Tamamo no Mai. Though to defeat Geto, Yuta realizes he needs a little extra juice and in a beautiful moment confesses his love to Rika. This causes her curse to be set free and basically makes her ultra powerful, enough to lay waste to Geto and save the day. My favorite line though in this moment is when Geto calls him a womanizer, but Yuta reaffirms he's not using Rika. He's just being truthful in this moment, as to him, this is true love. So, Geto retaliates by saying he will then fight for justice. I don't know, that line just gets me every time. Thankfully, both Yuta and Rika survive the battle. But, in a turn of events, it's revealed that because Rika's curse is broken, she has been set free to pass on. This is because it's revealed that Rika didn't curse Yuta. It was Yuta who cursed her in a twist of fate. This is because he didn't want her to die, and his overwhelming thoughts essentially cursed her to always be with him forever, as a curse. Yuta realized this from the very beginning, but kept running away from the truth to paint himself as a victim, not accepting the reality of what he's done to himself and to Rika. That is, until now. Yuta not only broke the curse of Rika Orimoto, but he learned to live on his own, to accept the pain of his past and move on from it, to grow further. Yuta couldn't have done this unless he learned from Maki to be strong, unyielding, and to have a goal. To realize the value of friendship and relying on others to have the helping hand everyone needs in their darkest moments. And to accept that we all experience pain and trials that may bury us or keep us from progressing. But instead of living in that pain, locking yourself away from the world to spare those who you perceive as victims of your own actions, to realize that the very pain which keeps us from growing in the moment is the very pain which lets us learn to grow. The story of Yuta Okatsu isn't just one where he learns new fighting techniques, fights curses, and gets the girl. It's about learning to live, because, as we see throughout this movie, all of Yuta's interactions and experiences are solely about him learning to accept himself and grow, moving on from his bloody past and closing the door on a love that was at one point meant to be. We can see how, at the beginning of the series, he wants to lock himself away, but it's through Maki that makes him realize he needs to choose a goal, which is to be able to say, it's okay to live. He doesn't want to be alone forever. He wants to be loved and appreciated, but he needs to fight to prove to himself that he wants it and earn it. This is where he grows to appreciate Maki for her unyielding nature, and despite her doing it out of spite and doing alone, he is still empathetic to her challenges and wants to support her. This is where Toge and Panda come into play. Toge teaches Yuta that, in life, it's important to have people that you can rely on. You can't just solo a special grade curse, you need to be able to count on others to deal with that curse, but as well, be reliable just as much as the other. You must support as much as you want support, as the output of your actions is the energy you get back. It's also through Panda he grows to appreciate Maki more as someone he wants to protect, just like he did with Rika. And about Rika, sometimes the hardest thing is letting go. Sometimes it's much easier to live as a victim and to hide away from the things which knock at your door. But the reality is that by Yuta confessing his love to Rika, breaking the curse and setting her free, letting go freed not only her, but it freed him. Sometimes the hardest thing is letting go. But when you let go of what weighs you down, what curses you, you will be able to move on and grow to obtain your happiness. All of these things aren't just nice little plots or story to hit some imaginary quota to be a shonen. These are real life lessons we can apply to ourselves. We can learn to let go. We can learn to appreciate. We can learn to rely. We can learn to love. We can learn to support. Because that is what Jujutsu Kaisen 0 is about. It teaches us to live. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe, but as well consider becoming a patron to get access to my One Piece arc-by-arc review series. 3 videos in advance before they hit live feeds. Thank you all for watching so much. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!